So I was editing the video and completely forgot to mention that you have to trim off a 1/4 inch of your final crimp tube in order to crimp 2.5 inch shells on the lead load all. See the final crimp tube right here? This one right here? Yeah, trim off at least 1/4 inch of it. Now you can trim off more if you want to load even shorter shells. I've actually gotten to crimp 2 3/8 inch shells. The lead load all press does it fine. If you don't trim off that 1/4 inch for 2.5 inch shells, though, it bottoms out on the bottom of the final crimp tube. Won't close the crimp. But yep, just trim off 1/4 inch of it and you're good to go. Alright guys, welcome back to another one. We're doing something a little bit different today. Something that I don't usually load, but is cool nonetheless. Now 12, 16, and 20 gauge today. All three. Could also do 10 gauge, but I'm not going to include it in this video because that one's a little bit tedious to load in this chamber length. 2.5 inch, that's what we're doing today. It's 2.5 inch shells. Now, you may be asking why 2.5 inch? Well, there's a few reasons. One, a lot of older guns may have short chambers. Your old single shots from around 1910 and before, especially 16s, they had only 2 9/16 inch chambers, or 2.5. 2 9/16 being 1/16 more. Oh, just a side note, the Remington and Winchester, no, it's just Winchester, the game loads, the 1 ounce at 1165 FPS loads, those shells are 2 9/16. When you set them side by side to a full length 2 3/4 inch shell, you'll notice that those Winchesters are just a little bit shorter. I think the Remingtons are too, but I can't remember at this moment. But these are all 65mm hulls. This was a 2 3/4 inch shell, the 12 gauge. I trimmed it down to match the 2.5 inch 65mm 16 gauge shell here. This is a Fiocchi, Shadot, and also a Shadot. Now this shell is kind of special. What do you notice about that? It's paper. Yeah, Ballistic Products actually has paper 20 gauge shells in stock. Now, they're listed under the 2.5 inch shells, but they're actually 67mm. So, again, I trimmed it down to 65mm. Now, the internal capacity of this 20 gauge shell is quite large. I tried to fit a 2 3/4 inch, 3/4 ounce load in this shell right here, and I had to use filler. So, capacity is the same or a little bit more than regular 2 3/4 inch shells. Now, this shell untrimmed is actually a little bit longer than Federal and Estate and Winchester Universal shells, standard 2 3/4 inch shells untrimmed. That's just a little weird. Those are supposed to be 70mm and this is 67mm. On the tape measure, this one measured right at 2 5/8 inches, which is what it says on the bag these came in, is 2 5/8. But the second reason being that you might want to load these is because maybe you just want something different, or you want a little bit lighter of a load without having to use any fillers. You can use fillers in regular 2 3/4 inch hulls, works fine, but maybe you like variety. I do. That's why I bought these 2.5 inch shells. Now there's one other length of 2.5 inch shells that Ballistic Products carries. Now they list this as a 2.5 inch shell, but actually it's 63mm. You may notice that the 32 gauge shell is just a little bit shorter than, when you get the true 2.5 here for better comparison, the 16 gauge. Now these, yeah, you can see it there. 32 gauge 2.5 inch shell is actually 63mm. Just a little side note. But let's quit yapping and get to loading stuff up. We're starting with a 20 gauge because that's what my press is set up for. I was loading up some 20 gauge shells earlier. Okay, for the 20 gauge load, we're keeping it light, 3/4 ounce. Now, the powder you'll need is Winchester AA Super Handicap for this load I'm doing. It only uses 12 grains of powder. You could use 12.5 up to 14 grains. But I'm keeping this right around 1200 FPS, 12 to 12 and a half grains of Winchester AA Super Handicap. If you load a lot of the 20 gauge light loads 3/4 ounce and you like the 1200 FPS mark, this powder is probably the way you want to go. You can get a lot of loads using only 12 grains of powder. Set my hull on there. Alright. Get it more centered than that. 12. Double check it. Yep. Just gonna set my scale aside. Okay, now the wad that I'm using in this load is the Claybuster 20 gauge 3/4 ounce wad. I cannot remember the name of it, but I have went ahead and pinched out the gas seal with a pair of pliers just to give it a better seal in this hole, because it is a straight wall hole. They are tough to get in there at first because you flare it out, but once it's in there, it's got a great seal. You are going to get no powder migration with this. Probably pinched it out a little bit too much, but that's okay, I got it. Now, since I did trim this hole, you probably don't need the filler anymore, but untrimmed, you do. We'll find out whenever I get the shot in, which is now. Got my cup here. Using number 6 shot. It's probably good. Awesome. Doesn't look like I'm going to need the filler. My camera cut out on me, ran out of storage on my phone. That's okay. I just deleted all the old videos that I previously made because they're already uploaded. So, I had crimped it and then looked at my camera again and noticed that it had stopped recording. So, that's okay. I just opened it back up with the screwdriver and we'll crimp it again. These crimp just like your plastic shells. And as you can see, if I can focus it here, awesome looking crimp. Actually, let me turn the camera around and get you guys a better view of this. Ain't that pretty? Well, it looks good to me anyway. That hole in the middle right there is just where I trimmed it, a little bit unevenly, possibly, and it does have a little spot of the yellow missing. Towards the bottom, you can see there. That's okay. It's number 6 shot. There's no way it's coming out of that little hole. Good looking round. These paper shells crimp beautifully. Wish they'd get them back in stock in 12 gauge, and I think they used to carry them in 16 gauge. I know Shadot makes 16 gauge paper shells, but it doesn't look like they're exporting them out of the country right now. Not sure. Alright. Moving on to the 16 gauge, 2.5 inch. Powder charge is going to be 22 grains of long shot for a 1 ounce payload. This isn't running all that fast, maybe around 1250 FPS, but it's going to be an extended range load for 2.5 16. I doubt anyone else has done this before, but I'm always coming up with new things and new ideas, so why not? 22 grains of long shot. I had it measured out in this 12 gauge hole just to save some time. Yep, still 22 grains. Roll it over to ounces. We're using the CSD 16 wad. It's from Ballistic Products. Unslit, completely unmodified from the factory. Right out of the bag. Using Gary Caskey's wad slitter. Line it up with the mold lines. Push down. That quick to slit a wad. 4 pedal. 3/4 cut. Right in there. Okay, now Gary is offering you guys, my viewers, a 10% discount on his products if you mention my name or my videos. He offers a pretty good range of stuff. They're all reloading tools. I believe he offers hole trimmers, excellent wad slitters, as you guys can see. I love this thing. But I'll leave his email address and his link to his Facebook page in the description and the pinned comment of this video below. If you guys want one of these, just get in contact with Gary. Ask him what all he's got. I'm sure he has something you'll need, or at least like to have. But yeah, I'm a big fan of this thing. It saves quite a bit of time. You can knock out a whole bag of 250 wads in probably an hour, probably 45 minutes if you really go at it. But yeah, just wanted to mention that. Gary's gonna hook you guys up, 10% off. Just mention my name or videos to him. But where was I here? Oh yeah, we'll need some fiber wadding. About probably an 1/8 inch of it. Just stuff it in the bottom of the shell. Use your press to compress it. It looks like it's going to do it. Oh, I pulled it back out. Fingernail caught it. Now the primer seating punch caught it. That's okay. Should look something like that. I might need a little bit more actually, but we'll find out. This is my first time ever loading this load right here. Number 4 buck. Let's see. These will stack by 4 in here. $16, $17, $18, $19, $20. 20 pellets is 0.95 ounces, and that's right where you want it because we'll be adding buffer to this to get it up to 1 ounce. Perfect. Let me get these situated right like I want them. We'll be needing a little bit of filler. I'm just going to put a 32 gauge nitro card in it, in the bottom of the wad. Yeah. It's not often you guys get to see me experiment on camera, but here we are. You stack very nicely by 4s. It's come up right to the top of the wad, but I think I'm going to be needing just a little bit more filler. Let me just grab another section of fiber wad here, because you can never have too much cushion. Well, maybe you can. Okay. Get these back out of here. Just going to trim off a little bit of fiber wad. Tear it in half. Put it right in your hole and then use your press again to compress it. That looks really good. Just going to dump these in here by hand and shake it around to help them find their way. That's done it. Alright. We're going to go with the ITX buffer today. I've been using that a little bit more than the Mix number 47 buffer lately, just because, well, I just got it and I'm just seeing how it does. Drop my dipper in the floor. Looks like it's going to do it. Maybe a little bit more. This is possibly the first extended range 2.5 16 gauge shell. But if you guys have loaded them before, let me know. Great looking pre-crimp on it. Pretty nice looking crimp. See if I can focus on it. Not bad looking at all. Is any buffer leaking? Nope, I'm not getting any buffer leaking, but I'm going to go ahead and clear fingernail polish, or I might even open this back up off camera and put a thin overshot card on it. But there's your 16 gauge extended range load for 2.5 inch. Let's move on to the 12 gauge. Yeah, I've never loaded that shell before. You guys got to see me experiment a little bit. But let's get to moving on. Okay, for the 12 gauge, we're sticking to 1 ounce loads again, because the whole point of me doing this is light loads. 1 ounce and 12 gauge is really light. We'll be needing 19 grains of Hodgdon clays. This load is running probably around 1275 FPS. The load data calls for 19 grains and 1 1/8 ounce of shot, but we're dropping it down to 1 ounce. That's going to lower the pressure a little bit and get you a little bit more velocity. Not a whole lot, but a little bit more. So, 19 grains. I have it here in this 10 gauge hole. Okay, we're using the X12X symmetrical gas seal. That's going to look like that. CB 1138 wad. It's one of our favorites in the reloading group. Everybody uses that water out there. It is a favorite, a staple. 500 bag is $14.99. They used to be a little bit cheaper about a year and a half ago, even a year ago, but like everything, it's gone up in price a little bit. 9 pellets. Again, this is a 0.95 ounce payload with buffer right at 1 ounce. You stack by 3s, right to where it needs to be for the crimp. My grandfather clock went off whenever I was crimping it, so I'm just going to crimp it again. ITX buffer, that's what's in here. Just added some ITX buffer. Just like that. Come on. It's not going to show it, but good looking crimp on it. Yeah. But anyway, that's the 12 gauge right there. Again, it's 19 grains of Hodgdon clays, X12X, CB1138, and 9 pellets of single lot buck, ITX buffer, could use whatever buffer you want, and 6-point fold crimp. That's all that one is. Cool looking shell. But thank you guys for watching. That one was a pretty fun one to make. Pretty challenging with the 2.5 inch shells. I don't do a lot of those. The 16 gauge was the challenging part. I had never loaded that before, like I mentioned earlier. But it was cool. It was pretty fun to load, figure it out. But yeah, if you guys load any extended range 2.5 inch 16 gauge shells, let me know. I would want to know if you do that. But we'll be testing that load probably in 16 gauge buckshot part 3. Stay tuned for that, because we are planning to do it soon. But yep, that's going to end this one here. Thank you guys for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.